You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts.
Are you ready? I'm saying, are you ready?
Watch us on YouTube. Listen on your favourite podcast platform. Or ask your smart speaker to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Right, Chris.
White circle going around in the middle of a black square. How the devil are you? Good evening, good day, good morning, good afternoon, good night, goodbye, hello, wherever you are, whatever time zone you're in. Obviously, even if you don't support Leicester, you are welcome. This is Leicester Till I Die. It's a joint production this evening, as they say. That makes it probably sound posher than it is. But we're broadcasting live with Ant's Leicester fan channel, and we have the man himself with us, and we'll be bringing him in a second. Looking forward to that. Always a pleasure to have him on the show. It says there, it says in my note, so it must be. And well, this is where you can find Leicester Till I Die TV, though, all over social media. Search LTID TV or Leicester Till I Die, and you'll probably find us somewhere. Me. Isn't it? This is going to be fun. Apparently, I'm frozen. Am I working now? Ant, good evening.
Hello, we can hear you. Now we can see you. But I've got to say, Chris, in that about 20 seconds that you were frozen, it's the most sense I've ever heard you speak.
Thank you very much, Short Arse.
Setting the tone early, aren't we?
We are. We said that. Well, the show only ever goes one way when you're on it. But you're welcome, sir. Welcome along. I don't know what's going on. My internet is absolutely playing up, but then my broadband and my on the south coast. Everybody thinks it's nice down here, but it isn't. Ant's Leicester fan channel. Tell us all about it, sir.
So, previews, match reactions, match reviews, transfer news, match day vlogs.
And you have frozen for me now as well. Are you back?
Say that again, Chris. You froze.
So did you at my end. My internet is being totally a pain in the arse. Ant's Leicester fan channel. Tell us all about it, sir.
Oh, yeah. Home and away match day vlogs, or as many aways as I can. Cost of living crisis and all of that. We've got previews, reactions, chats outside the ground, all of that good stuff, really.
Good. Well, you're welcome along, sir. If you are new to either channel, subscribe to both. And if you support one, get over and support the other. It wouldn't be tonight if we didn't have the third of the three wise monkeys. The rose that's going to be between the two thorns this evening, we'll bring her in and say hello to Kate. Kate, oh, let me just get rid of that. How the devil are you?
Yes, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Do we find you sober for once?
Yes. Not had a drop today.
Well, I'm sure you'll make up for it tomorrow.
Yeah, there's still time in the day. That's no problem.
There is actually. That is very, very true. I've got to say, Kate, I'm actually disappointed there's no football. This time last season, I was actually looking forward to the international break. But this season, I'm actually disappointed we've got one.
I know, same. I'm feeling a bit like that as well. It always makes me feel a bit lost. And I know we've had a really packed schedule, which probably makes the withdrawals seem a little bit more, to be honest.
But I think we should put Kate in the middle there, don't you? Like I say, a rose between two thorns on that. If you don't expect any more money for that. If you missed it the other day, you can see it above there. It is still available on YouTube on LTID TV. Chat with Julian Watts. We did the classic match, second in a series so far of 2, so it is quite new. And we look back at the Palace Leicester playoff final, in which he played a very, very big part. So go and check that out. It was a good chat. Good chat. I do love doing those. But, ladies and gentlefolk, we are here to talk about this quarter of the season review. First of all, Ant, can you believe it's a quarter of the season virtually already?
No, because like you say 11 games and it feels like, oh, we've only just really started. But like when you say a quarter of a season, 25%'s gone. We've made a big dent so far into sort of a progress of the season. And the fact that we're 10 out of 11 as well, it's like, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Like, considering everything, and we're going to get into much more detail tonight, like, considering everything that's happened over the summer, the fact that we've started how we have is ridiculous.
At what point, Kate, does pinching yourself become self-harm?
Yeah, I don't know. Never. When we're on form like this, just let it continue.
Indeed. I mean, Kate, everybody was saying at the start, and we're getting that feedback, I think, now, Kate, but everybody was saying at the start that we were going to go straight back up. We were favourites, all the bookies had us as favourites, and I was sort of like, no, that's been unfair to the rest of the, teams in the division. But if this continues, I mean, I hate to say it, but it is a bit of a walk in the park, isn't it?
Yes and no. I mean, our form has been amazing. I don't think anybody could have predicted 10 from 11. I would have snapped your hand off for maybe 7 out of 11, to be honest. But it's not a foregone conclusion. Sorry, it's because Ipswich are only a few points behind. Like there's going to be some unknowns in there still. There's going to be some unpredictability, and I'm always, because we're Leicester fans, we can't ever get too cushy, can we? We don't want to feel like it's a walk in the park, because that's come to bite us on the arse a few times, really. So I think this is the time for us and the team to just keep our feet on the ground, keep the concentration, because it's a long old season. I mean, I think we said last week when we spoke that because of the cup games already and an FA Cup game to come in Jan, then we'll already be at 50 games for the season, which is pretty intense. So we've just got to keep our feet on the ground. But yeah, it's been an incredible start and one I didn't see coming at all.
But Ant, go back 12 months, how we were feeling after 11 games last season. I mean, everybody's saying to us, like, oh, you're the Man City of the Championship and all this and the other, but they forget how awful it was 12 months ago.
They do, and you know what's quite funny is, like, we're hearing all of this stuff of Man City, of the Championship and all of this stuff now. Go back. Before before the season had started, the narrative have changed so much since the start of the season till now, because it was at the start of the season, it's a tough old league to get out of. You've got an unknown manager, you've lost some quality players, which we had in James Maddison, Harvey Barnes, and Louis Tielemans. Now you've got a Premier League squad, you've spent the most money, you should get out of the league. Like, within how much time? The narrative has gone completely 360. So ultimately, like, I'm not too asked what opposition fans say about us. I never have been, never will be. I just think we focus on what we're doing. And as Kate says, as good as the start's been, it's the start, and it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And as long as we finish in one of those top 2 places by the end of the season, I think that's all that matters, really.
Indeed, I agree. And the thing is, Kate, we haven't got a Premier League squad, because that squad we had, and we'll look at it in more detail later, that bears hardly any resemblance to the squad that we had 12 months ago. Like I say, there's more players gone out than come in, so you can't call us a Premier League squad, can you?
No, not at all, especially because some of the people that have stayed were some of the biggest underperformers in the last couple of years as well. That might be because of management and injuries and whatever, but we're not a finished article for the Premier League at all. And also, I don't know whether you guys feel this, but I do want us to have some challenge in the league. I want people to, to put the windows up as a bit, because it shows how the team react and how, when times get tough, can we respond? Can we dig deep? And we've had to do that in a few periods in games, but it's really important that we're able to demonstrate that this year, because I don't want our first try at that to be in the Premier League with some guys that aren't tested yet.
Yeah. What do you think, Ant?
Yeah, it's like I say, because earlier on in the season, there was points like Cardiff, and games like that, even the Cov game, where we had to really grind out results. But I feel like as the team spent more time on the training pitch with Enzo Maresca, they've elevated the level. They've become more comfortable. They're learning philosophy, and teams just can't cope with us. Like the fact Preston, who were 3rd at the time, came to the King Power, and Stoke, who were 18th at the time, came to the King Power, and you could barely tell any difference in quality between them. Like they both came to play with 2 blocks of 4. That's probably being generous saying 2 blocks of 4, but both of them parked the bus firmly on the edge of their own box and offered nothing going the other way. It does worry me the fact that I do think there might be a point where we get a rude awakening. Or maybe not a rude awakening, but there will be games that we lose. Like we know how the Championship works. We've seen it enough ourselves. But it's the fact that, like, obviously between Stoke and between Preston, minimal quality difference. Like, you want to get tested, and like the example I use, and I'm not saying we're anything like them, is PSG. PSG, year after year after year, win the French league, go into the Champions League. As soon as there's a semi-competitive team, they crumble because they're not used to playing competitive level football.
No, you're right. And I've got to say, Preston didn't just come and park the bus. They built a bloody coach park, didn't they? On the pitch. But I've got to say, I'll stick with you, Tom. I'll stick with you, Ant, because Tom's come to watch us from your channel. And saying, I'm wondering at what point do we look to avoid relegation this season? Serious point from a management point of view. It is a good point, isn't it? When you look at Burnley, they took longer to get into it than we did, but they stormed this division, and they're in the bottom 3.
Conversations to have next season. Let's get out of the Championship before we talk about staying up in the Premier League.
Yeah. Kate,
what one step at a time.
Oh, definitely. But Kate, are we safe from relegation this season?
No, not till the fat lady sings a bit.
So
I just don't trust.
You don't trust Leicester, do you? That's what you're saying.
It's an emotional roller coaster, whatever it is. So I'd like to think there's enough of a gap now, because it would take something absolutely bonkers to happen. Yes. But it's not a foregone conclusion at all. And whilst it's nice to have confidence, we've been given space to play our game and practice this philosophy, which has been great. But nothing's a given, nothing's a freebie. And injuries could cost us. Injuries have really set us off track in previous seasons, and we're not free from that happening again.
Well, it is. We are only 22 points off the relegation zone, so let's keep our fingers crossed.
Very tight.
But look, I want to say, and I want to bring this up, and to the guy that went onto my Facebook and went, well, last season we were playing Man City and Liverpool. This season we're playing Stoke and Preston. Yes, I know, but this season we have got a different squad. I mean, when you look at that, Ant, and you say, we've played 11 and we've won 10, Last season, we played 38 and won 9. After 11 games, we've got 30 points this season. Last season, we played 38 and only ended up with 34. Just enjoy it and just say, the fact that we're winning again is just fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Neil said it best on my show that I did, last show I did with him. Just enjoy not being crap. Like, it's blunt, it's simple, it's straight to the point. But just enjoy not being crap.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I did a show last night, Kate, and if you want to, anybody who has not seen it, again, it's one of the in my opinion shows. And I said, look, last season I was giving, so much grief to these guys, the senior management, Top, Susan Whelan, John Rudkin, Martin Glover. They weren't doing the job. They hadn't got their eye on the ball. Top was sort of somewhere else and, in Thailand, sorting other things out. And, he wasn't getting the support from the players. And as much as I gave them brickbats last season, we've got to give them credit this season because they've come in this season and gone, right, we're going to take, and I think they've taken the risk on Enzo, and we'll come on to Enzo in a second, but they've backed him. They've everything that they got wrong last season, they've got right this season.
Yeah, I agree, and it may just have been going back to basics. I strongly believe that Vishai always wanted Brendan. He was rumoured to have come to us for ages. I do think Vishai, he was like his primary target. So I think that was heavily heart-driven rather than head-driven. And I think we may have just gone back to basics and gone back to things that have worked in the past for us in terms of methodology of picking management teams, picking, any candidates that want to come forward. So it's great to see we seem to have learned from the errors of our past, which they absolutely deserve to be able to do.
I've got to say this to you, and because Boris is a regular on here. I don't know if he ever comes onto yours or not, but he has this thing that he thinks we are playing boring football at the moment.
Well, if we're going to play boring football, win 10 out of 11, score the most goals in the championship, and concede the least, happy days.
You'll be happy to be bored every week, won't you?
Bore me to death, and I know like football's subjective, X, Y, and Z, and all of that, but I've enjoyed what we're watching. I like possession-based football. I like the tactical side of the game. I do get the fact that, like, in the stands, watching counter-attacking football can be more exciting because it's those quick moments and those flashes. But the reality is, every team is going to come to the King Power and put a bus or 2 or 3 in front of their goal, and it's just like, you can't just sort of hoof the ball long and hope that when teams do that, you have to be strategic and break them down. But also, I think, like, you look at the way that every top team plays, you sort of look, even every top 6 team in the Premier League, top 8, probably top 10, they play possession-based football. There's a reason for that. But it's the way that the game has evolved. There's a reason as well that very few teams play sort of route one, and I don't want to say sort of basic football, but the little man, big man, target man. Like the game's moved on from that, and it's evolved past that.
It has. I mean, Kate, let's be honest with you. Go back to the Premier League winning season. Of course, it was exciting football, counter-attacking, but that was 7-8 seasons ago now. I mean, we won the World Cup playing 4-4-2. There's not much of that about either these days. Football moves on, and surely at the end of the day, if you're going to, like I said earlier, if you're going to be, and I know we've spoken about Boris before, but if you're going to be, this is being boring, bore me to death.
Yeah, absolutely. It's clear that, like Ant's just said, that the top teams are doing this. The top teams are a possession-based team. And so if we want to, get back to our dizzy heights from before, I think we've got to sort of approach that. And Enzo seems to have the best mentor in that, the best pedigree to come from that style of play. And it's really exciting that he's got to execute that with us. And if we want to get back up to the Premier League and be a worthy cause in that league, then it's probably the modern way to do it. And it will evolve again, I'm sure, over the next decade, probably. But yeah, I mean, I can't call football boring when we're winning, we're scoring. You see Vardy giving his abuse to the away fans. Like it's what we want. It's what you pay to see. You pay to see your team winning. It's so refreshing. Any sports fan can go with that. Whatever league you're in, it's the winning. It's how it feels. It's going to see good football every week, and that's what we're seeing.
Indeed. Just go back to you, Ant, on the graphic there. I mean, your thoughts on Top Susan, John and Martin this season? It is like a completely different mindset, isn't it?
It is. I think putting Martin Glover in, giving him any grief last year is probably a bit harsh because I think he got the January transfer window. And I think Suter was a good signing. Tete was all up but was available on the right wing realistically. And who else did we sign? Christensen. Again, he looks like a bright prospect, but he's just not the player that Enzo Maresca wants. I think we've said this a lot. Top's heart with Leicester is in the right place. He wants to see Leicester do well. But I think he was far too sentimental with Brendan Rodgers and just did not want to bite the bullet with him. And ultimately, I think that's the biggest thing that cost us. Rudkin, I don't really know enough about what he does, if I'm honest. Like I've said this many times, but people blame Rudkin for 1,000,001 things.
Yeah.
He's not responsible for anywhere near as much as he gets blamed for. But like I know like the contracts and like the Vestergaard being on 70 grand a week, Bertram being on 70 grand a week, absolutely he deserves all of the criticism for that. But there's some stuff he gets blamed for that you think, is that really him, or is it just people don't know, so they just put a name to something that's negative?
He works within the budgets that he's told, and if the manager that's in situ at the time says he really, really wants the player, then he knows that he can go up to 70. Maybe he couldn't go up to 80 because that's the limit. But he's getting grief off Rodgers saying this is the player I want with Vestergaard for a few seasons. He's going to do what he can to get him for the club, for the manager, isn't he?
He is, but at the same time, it's like if you're told to go and buy a can of baked beans from a supermarket, you're not going to go and then say if you've got a fiver, you're not going to go and spend all £5 on one can of baked beans. It's using common sense and sort of valuing what you've got. Because Vestergaard, as fantastic as he is at this season, he's not a 70 grand a week player, and it's sort of using it's using some common sense as well.
But Kate, if you go into your local supermarket and there's a brand of own beans for 10p and a brand of Heinz for 25p, and you like Heinz, you're going to buy Heinz, aren't you?
Yeah, but they ultimately do the same job. They're both beans. So there's just got to be common sense, hasn't there, with the budget, with the purse strings, especially when it's not your bloody purse strings. You've just got to have a practical approach to spending money, and that's what budgets are there for.
But if he's
working
players, which he must be, because let's be honest, if he wasn't working within budgets, he would have been sacked by now.
Yeah, true. But I think, like Ant said, it's just applying common sense. Just applying common sense to it, really. But I think we just left it. January is always a funny transfer window, isn't it? There's not a lot about.
Yeah,
that's the problem as well.
For me, at the moment, I just think Yannick's worth every penny, and we should extend his contract and double it.
We're probably not talking about a supermarket. We're probably talking about your local off license, and you want to do a week.
Yeah, we're talking about Audi here, not Waitrose, aren't we? You know what I mean? But look, okay, I'll stick with you, and I'll come to you, Anne, with the same question afterwards to give you some thinking time. But at the start of the season, we were linked. Let's be honest with you. There was Gerrard was being linked. The cardigan on legs was being linked. And I guess I understand why. I mean, Steven Gerrard had the name, if you like. Scott Parker had he had got two teams promoted. And then, for me, there was the guy from Ipswich that's proving what a good manager he is at the moment. I like the Blackburn Rovers manager. Enzo wasn't in my top two. It was the Blackburn and Ipswich managers. It was a bit of a gamble. And whilst this excited me, I'm very excited. I mean, 6 days after this guy had held up the Champions League trophy, signing on to be our manager, there was that bit of doubt in my mind about whether he had the experience for this league. Humble pie. Yeah, he obviously has, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. And I think critically with any manager early in their career, like John Dale Thomason at Blackburn, he's still early in his career, although he has got arguably more experience in the league. I think it's in the Championship, you can do it out of the spotlight. It's a real different ball game when you get to the Premier League because the spotlight and the heat from the press is unbelievable, and that adds a different dimension to the job. So with Enzo, he's been able to learn his craft elsewhere and now put some of his philosophy into practice because he's a little bit out of the spotlight. We're obviously going to get some headlines because it looks like we're romping the league when, you know, on the outside looking in, it's been an amazing start for us. But yeah, it was a punt. But I still trusted the process. I don't know whether you felt like that. I wasn't worried when he was appointed. I wasn't thinking, what the hell? I was really encouraged that we've got a guy who's learnt from arguably the best manager of the generation. And he wants to come to us, and it's a project. And, you know, Leicester City is a really attractive entity for somebody wanting to start their career or continue their early career.
Yeah. And I mean, are we playing this, you know, master pupil thing a little bit too much? Because he had one season with him when he was at the development squad, possibly two, maximum of two. One season with him as assistant manager. But like I say, I'm not complaining because what he's doing absolutely perfect.
Yeah, it's early days with Enzo Maresca, and it's one of those. Whoever we got in was going to be a risk, but it's like the fact it seemed like a calculated risk, and it seemed like everything that we hoped with Enzo that we would see, we are seeing early on with the style of football, the youth players being promoted. And Maz, I think, like, you could have got Scott Parker in. I have no doubts he would have got us up. But then where do you go beyond that? I think with Enzo Maresca, his history of youth players is a huge reason he was brought in, because Seagrave was a huge investment by the club, and we haven't seen anywhere near the potential of it yet. Enzo Maresca will be using Seagrave and facilities there to develop and improve these young players, because there's no point in like investing the millions into our academy that has been invested into it. If you're not then going to start to see these players starting to pop up in the first team, because Casey McAteer is one, but like I think we both said this at the start of the season, Chris, but he'll probably be featured in and around the first team. But I don't think either of us had him as a sort of a mainstay or a player that's really going to be one of the ones that sort of first names on his team sheet. But again, I feel like these kind of players are why Enzo was brought in. And obviously we've got Sammy Braybrook to come back, Will Alves. Like, as much as it's like the here and now he's doing well, I think for him, it was being brought in. It's a calculated risk for the future as well.
I mean, okay, Enzo utilising Seagrave, he's really living there, isn't he? When he was asked,
I love to live there. It's incredible. It's like
I know. Nip for swimming around a golf before you at the weekend if there's no match, and this about what you do when
was all over it like a rash. It's an absolute brilliant place to work and live and do your job. It's incredible.
And he said, "What do you do when you when there's nobody there?" And he says, "I watch football." I mean, you know, he is. I mean, you know, was it Terry said there? You know, Pep must be getting a bit pissed off because every time he gets a decent number two, they go off somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a good record he's got so far, isn't it? I think Pep really enforces accountability, doesn't it? He does that with his team, and he probably does that with his coaching staff. So you learn to carry some burden of the responsibility probably from quite early on if you work with Pep. So he is crafting future managers. That's probably the nature of how he operates, really.
And I suppose he's like any proud parent, and when he sees his kids go off and do well, it speaks very high.
Yeah, and he even looks like him. He's got the same haircut. He seems to have the same style. Like, it's the proper chip off the old block, isn't it?
It is a bit. What was that film? There was a film, wasn't it, about a woman who literally takes over the life of another woman, and I can't think what it's called now. But anyway, I digress. But look, fantastic manager, and I'm eating a lot of humble pie. And I want to start, before we get into the actual league season, I just want to look at our Carabao Cup exploits, because, all right, we went out to Liverpool, and I think we all kind of, when we saw we were away to Liverpool, I think we all kind of went, all right, that's the run over. But I think this season, and yes, you want to win every game, but there's something more important this season than winning the Carabao Cup, isn't there?
Yeah, I'd normally love a cup run, but it's like you say, there's bigger priorities this year. And what I said before that Liverpool game is, if we go out, and I think I came on to your live stream for the when you were doing the covering the Liverpool game. It's like, if we go out, but we go out with our heads held high and give Liverpool a game, then I'm happy. And we did that. We went to Anfield. We tried to play our own game, and ultimately just their quality shone through. So the fact that we've gone to the team I think will finish second in the league, but a team in Liverpool, regardless, that will be pushing for the Premier League title, and we've tried to stick to our identity so early on with Enzo, says a huge amount to me. So as much as the cup runs over early, I saw enough in that cup run to make me happy.
I mean, Kate, we played Liverpool pre-season, and we had kind of a mad half hour when it all went wrong. I think there was a lot of improvement. I mean, we didn't do that badly, apart from that particular half hour in the pre-season game. But against Liverpool, all right, they equalised. But their second goal was a worldie, and I don't think there's many goalkeepers would do. I don't even think Danny Ward would have saved that, to be honest with you. And their third goal had a little bit of luck about it. It hit the post and, went in. It could have hit the post and come out. So, as Ant said, I think if we'd gone there and we'd have lost 5-0 or something like that, then I might have thought, oh, God, if we go, what's going to happen? But I think we gave them a game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Enzo would have been licking his lips at it, because it's kind of a trial run for Premier League. I mean, they are the top of the tree. They are a team that we never get a lot from Anfield anyway.
No.
But it was going to be really interesting for him to see how well we can compete against a top level team, because we're probably not going to get that kind of competition again this season unless the FA Cup presents us with something. So I think he was probably really encouraged by what he saw. Casey McAteer didn't give a monkey's who he was playing. He just took everybody on, played his game, and that's exactly what Enzo wants to see. Don't let the opposition change the way you think, change the way you act. Just go for it, play our own game, and we did that. And I think it's so hard. I mean, it was 3-1 last time we went to Liverpool in the cup. I went and it was just sad, but I didn't feel as sad this time. It was really encouraging, and do you know what? A couple of goals, like you say, it could have been different. Yeah, and we got off to a flying start, and we competed. Most importantly, we competed. It didn't look like a league apart.
Yeah, I mean, all right, Kate, I'll stick with you for there. I'm sure Boris was upset that we only got 2 past Burton and 2 past Tranmere. He probably expected 6 or 7. But look, how often have we fallen to teams like that? Very, very, in our recent past. And the fact that we were swapping teams around, and I don't think we have a B team at the moment, because I think it's so blurred and the players are coming on and swapping all the time. But the teams that had been changed from the previous games, and we still went out and did enough to win without, it would have been nice to maybe have won 5 or 6-0, but we maybe didn't even get out of second, third gear in either of those games.
No, I agree. And you don't know what the opposition are going to do. It's really difficult when teams park the bus for anybody. It's really difficult. But yeah, well, as long as we've won, as long as nobody's injured, as long as we've been able to play our game, just take the win. I mean, there's not many results where you see a 5, 6, 7-0 because they're 3 leagues apart. It just doesn't seem to happen that much anymore. The lower leagues have definitely upped their game. Like, if we got someone like Wrexham, there wouldn't be a 5-goal split. There wouldn't be, because those lower teams are starting to play proper football. They're getting good players in because there's money down there now. There's starting to be a bit of money and a bit of entertainment, like with the documentary. So 2-0, 3-0, whatever, 1-0. As long as we get through, that's all that matters.
Yes. Indeed. Okay, let's get down to the bread and butter, Ant. And I'm sorry, but I'm gonna put this up for Boris. But look, it's not a bad season. League position 1, So obviously we're first on that. Wins 10, we're first on that. Draws 0, we're the lowest on that. Losses 1, we're equal top on that. Goals scored 23, we're second by a couple of goals on that to Ipswich. Goals conceded 6, with the lowest in or top in that for goals conceded, and the biggest goal difference. I mean, we only need, I think it's one more point from Swansea, and we've broken the record.
No, it's one of those, and as I always say, everyone's entitled to their opinions with it, but I don't think we could have done much more at the start of this season to be sort of setting the foundations up for it to be a really successful season. So I'm really happy with what we're seeing, but as I keep saying, the start's brilliant, but when we get to the summer, I think it's where you can really sort of like pick this season apart and say, like, we are this or we are that. What I say at this point is it's such a small sample size, but the positive of this is I think we've seen the worst of this team, and I think we're just going to get better and better and better. So I think what we saw against Coventry was that Premier League level quality dragging us through. Dewsbury Hall with 2 moments of magic dragging us through. I don't think we're going to see too many games like that anymore, where we're just waiting on a moment of individual brilliance to save us, because now the system seems to be clicking and the players seem to be understanding the philosophy more and more.
Yeah,
we're blowing teams away.
Kate, I was speaking to a Stoke fan before the Stoke game, funnily enough, and he was saying, like, well, you know, we've signed a lot of new players, it's a new team, and they're taking a little while to gel. I'm saying, well, yeah, we've done exactly the same, but we just seem to have clicked, don't we?
Yeah, we do seem to have clicked, and I think that's probably why players like Cassidy have come in for a little bit of stick, because he's not hit the ground running like some of the other newbies, because they have done so well. But I think I've said before on previous shows, but it's all about engagement, and so far Enzo seems to have got that level of engagement from every single player. I'm not sure Hamza would have signed a new contract had things been different. He's engaged him. And it's all about engaging your team, making them feel like they're important and they've got a part to play. And I think that's shone through in the new signings as well. And that's why a lot of the fact is why we've gelled so well and all bought into the philosophy together as a group.
I mean, look at that, Ant. I mean, you know, green. So it's like a Tom Jones song, green grass of home, isn't it? I mean, it's just after the last 18 months, that is just all right. We lost to Hull, and maybe that was the reality check that we needed, maybe. And as I said at the time, whilst I don't want to lose any game, I was glad that we got it out the way quite early into the season. The longer it had gone on, the harder it would have been to accept.
Yeah, and we would have started getting stupid. Like, if we'd won that whole game, we would start getting stupid shouts at this point of like invincible season and all of that. So it's you also want to see how a team reacts to a loss, and the fact that we followed it up by, on paper, one of the hardest away days we'll have this season in Southampton, and absolutely played them on the park. Same with Norwich again, another very good team, went to Carrow Road and played them off the park. So it's like, it's the old saying, isn't it? It's not about sort of how many times. It's about when you get knocked down, like how you get back up and how you keep going. So, and I've just seen a comment there from Boris saying about hopefully lacklustre Leicester will have a real go if they ever go behind in the game. What, like Cardiff or Coventry or yeah.
I wasn't even going to put that one up, to be honest with you. I entertained a few of Boris's comments early on, and everybody's entitled to an opinion. And Boris, I respect yours, but we also we can disagree on opinions as well. Kate, did you go to that? Did you go to the Preston game?
I didn't know. I didn't go to Preston game.
Let me stick with Ant, because you went to the Preston. Did you go to the Preston game?
No, that's the one that I couldn't get to. Did I not tell you the story of this? But I booked my car in for an MOT.
Yes.
I booked my car in for an MOT, got the confirmed email, got the confirmed text, turned up on the day for my MOT to be done. Yeah, you're not booked in. Brilliant. Great. So I had to wait for the next day for it to for it to be done.
And of course, Kate, he's too posh to get the bus.
I'm sorry, I've got work to get.
Does he not get the bus? Oh no.
I'm sorry, I've got work to get back to for the next morning, so I would have had like 2 hours sleep.
It was where do you live?
Rugby.
Oh, do you? I'll let you off. Sorry, I thought you were local to Leicester. Well, let me come back to you then, Kate. I actually apologise to Ant then.
It's
Record it. Note the time and the date.
Everyone clip that. Everybody clip that.
It won't happen again. Look, well, obviously you must have seen highlights, etc. It was on the telly. I mean, that Preston game, I know Ant was, but Kate, I mean, they were, third in the table? They've been top. I mean, if that is the level of opposition that we're going to come up against, I am starting to think, are we going to walk it this season? Because they were bloody awful.
Yeah, that's the impression I got from the highlights that I saw and from speaking to a lot of people who went, that they were awful and offered absolutely nothing, which is really surprising considering that, you know, from their point of view, it's a bit of a free hit. Like you're probably not expecting to win or get much, but just have a go. And it was quite disappointing to see that, the team that high in the table who are flying, and they've got some history, haven't they? Preston North End have got some history behind them, and the fans turned out for them as well. Same with Stoke on Saturday, the fans turned out, and it was just a bit, really surprising. Obviously great that we won, but a bit sort of, not at all what we expected to see from a challenger.
I mean, it's to you, Ant. I mean, I think might have been Kate, and somebody has certainly, I'm just looking then, I can't find it, but somebody said it in the chat that Leicester are pretty much a free hit for most teams, and we are the team that's got, the biggest target on our back because of where we've been for the last 9 seasons. But they've got to come and give it a go. They just seem to be coming, like say, parking the bus and hoping to get something on the break.
Thing is, I disagree there. They didn't even try and counterattack us. Like, they weren't even looking to hit us on the break at all. It was just lump the ball every time I got the ball, lump it away, and it was wave after wave of attack. It's like, I understand teams that don't have the resources that we have, like playing counter-attacking football and trying to come and sort of soak up pressure and hit on the breaks. But these teams aren't even offering anything on the break. That's for me where the real shock is. There was this point in the Stoke game, I believe we had 91% possession. Like,
yes,
that is ridiculous. Like,
I think it was about 10, 15 minutes or something like that. It was stupid,
and it's like, it's one thing setting up defensively, trying to hit on the break and cause problems on the counter. Because, like, if you do that effectively, we know better than anyone, you can cause anyone huge issues if you get that right. But teams aren't even doing that. They're just putting everyone behind the ball and just lumping it forward as a bit of a relief for their defence.
Yeah, and Kate, I mean, look at the teams we've played so far. Coventry City, playoff playoff finalist losers, weren't they? You've got Southampton, who came down with us, beat us twice last season. Norwich, who you think are going to be up there and doing well. Preston, who had been up there. Blackburn, who only just missed out on the playoffs by on goal difference. We're not playing teams at the bottom end of the table, or you would expect to be at the bottom end of the table. We've played some pretty decent teams. So, like you say, how good can this season get?
Yeah, I think it could be record-breaking. It absolutely could be record-breaking. I'm just waiting for the bump in the road from a personal perspective. I'm just waiting for something to go wrong.
When we look at the table, and we are, what are we? We're 9 points above. No. So we're 10 points above third, and if you're coming out of the, we're about 17. I was no good at math. 13 points above seventh. Even if we have that bump, I don't know it will actually affect us that much, will it?
No, I hope not. Enzo said something really interesting, excuse me, a couple of weeks ago, and said that one of his friend who is a well-known manager, which I think we could perhaps hazard a guess who that is, had said to him, the longer you go on your winning streak, the harder it is to lose. And that's quite a good piece of advice from obviously a well-known, experienced manager. And I think we can probably all understand what he means, because you don't want to become arrogant, you don't want to become complacent. I think we've got enough points on the board to have we'd have to have a real wobble to miss out on any sort of top 6 element at all. But never say never. We never thought 3 years ago we'd be down here again. But I'd like to think we've got enough points on the board. But it's just concentration. We've got to stay concentrated. It's a long old season. We've already played 11 games and we're only just into October, so it's intense. We'll see what happens with the turn of the year, when the ground gets hard, when it's cold weather, injuries are picked up. We seem to have really good cover in areas, but
don't we play in a football stadium, Kate?
Yes.
You said it was intense. Anyway,
that is a shocker. That's a dad joke.
I'm sorry, it was. I'll admit that. I'm going to sit on the naughty step after this. But it was clean. It was clean. That's the way I like to look at it.
We can't have everything.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Tom says here, and I mean, it's great to have a manager that actually shows some passion on the sideline, and actually, I mean, he actually shows enthusiasm at press conferences. I'd forgotten what this was like.
Yeah, I love the stuff of like a manager showing passion on the sideline. I know it doesn't really matter massively, but it's just great to see.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing for me that I've noticed the difference is Enzo Maresca seems to like everything seems to be like, well, Leicester's a big club. Leicester doesn't belong here. I want us to get back and sort of really talking up Leicester. Compare that to last year from day one. Haven't been back to the transfer window. 40 points will be a great achievement. These players are crap. And like everything was somewhat. He might as well have just said it. Like he might as well have just like he pretty much did in other words. It's like threw every other player under the bus and sort of downplayed what Leicester was, saying that we'd overachieved and all of this. If you believe that, fine. Keep it to yourself, because it doesn't help anyone saying it publicly.
Yes.
Enzo Maresca instantly comes in saying that he wants to be ambitious, wants to get this club back to where he believes it belongs. And it's like, it's night and day difference. And like in any work of life, if you've got a boss that's sort of there and sort of fighting for you instead of fighting against you, you're going to put that extra 10% in. You're really going to want to work harder for them. If you've got a boss who's a bit of a knob, who is throwing everyone under the bus because of his mistakes, you're just going to think, you know what, do one.
Apparently, the bus drivers of Leicester feel a lot safer this season because they're not running over players every 5 minutes. I'm going to say hello to Kian. He's watched another Leicester channel and got fed up of all it was just constant negativity. And I'm new to this channel, so you're most welcome, Kian. And go and check out Amp's Leicester fan channel as well. And since watching this, it's just refreshing to hear some positivity. Don't know anybody can be negative about this season, but there we go. Kate, I'm going to ask you, favourite game so far this season?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. That's really put me on the spot.
No, that was the idea. You were looking much too comfortable there.
I would probably say...
I'll give you a second to think about it, and I'll give Ant a second as well, because I'll go with mine. And it wasn't just because I was there, but I was there, but it was the away game at Southampton. Simply because it was a game I didn't expect us to win the way we did. We'd been winning 2-0s and 2-1s, and 1-0s. I didn't expect that. And it was just a great, we went 1-0 up after a minute. And I think when I was there watching that game, for me, it kind of struck me that, we went 1-0 up after a minute. And yes, all right, we had that period where they were on top after they'd just scored. But I never felt really, really troubled. And I think watching that, and you do see these things differently when it's live. You see a lot more feel about all the players and what have you. And to me, I began to sort of think, right, yes, we could see something magic this season. And of course, we just come back from the defeat and the international break as well. So for me, that was my favourite game. And
for me, mine was Blackburn, because they were the one team that really, like, entertaining wise, they had a bit of a go, and like we absolutely tore them to pieces. And I thought, like, I think as well, because I went to it and it was a brilliant day out, always makes a game sort of better. But also, and I know people disagree with this, Stoke at home, I've never seen a team sort of cruise to a battering so easily in my life and almost like accept their fate before a ball had been kicked. Just absolutely, like,
I don't think we got out of third gear,
doesn't do it justice.
No, and we didn't get out of third gear, really, did we?
No, and it was very, very comfortable, and it was still like you start to see the philosophy, and like that second goal, the Vardy goal, like that was what Enzo ball will be, because before Ndidi even received the ball, Vardy was pointing to him where he wanted it.
Yes, he was. You mean Twinkle Toes, as we like to call Ndidi now. But AFC Bournemouth, welcome along, mate. How the devil are you doing? I know if we'd beaten Liverpool, I'd have been able to go and watch us at Bournemouth. Typical. Mind you, no, Marlock would have probably lost that one. So Ronald agreed with me. He went for the Southampton game. So did Paul. Favourite game is Southampton away. It's when Leicester proved their promotion credibility. You and me, Paul, we're on the same page. Ronald said Southampton away was probably the last time this season the bookies will make us 2-1. Kate, I'm giving you long enough now. Come on, which game are you going to go for?
Yes, I've had enough time. The blonde cogs have gone now. I think it's going to be the first game of the season, just because I was excited / nervous, and we came from behind, and I think that's always a great feeling. And we showed that we weren't going to wobble, we weren't going to mess up from the dots. I really enjoyed that game. So, and Coventry gave us a really good game, and I love a winner. I love coming from behind and winning. It's awesome.
Yes, especially against when it's a motorway derby as well. The biggest motorway derby in the country, the M69, isn't it? Yeah.
Shut the fans right up. They were giving us a lot of stick, as you can probably imagine, which is great banter, and it's great to silence them at the end.
Yeah. Tom says, I love this. Lionel Ndidi. So true. We are going to be coming on to the players and what Enzo has done to them in a second. AFC Bournemouth, regretting getting rid of your manager, I'm wondering? Maybe. And look, everybody's saying about, you're a Premier League team and look at all the money you've got. I mean, we haven't, and we don't get any parachute payments this season, because this season we still get what we receive for being 18th. So it would be next season if we're still down when we get the parachute payments. But, just to look back at the transfer window, I mean, there's a hell of a lot more on that right side of going out than there is on the left side coming in. And just going back to John Rudkin, I mean, 40 million for Maddison, 40 million for Barnes. When was the last time a team got relegated and got 80 million for two players?
Southampton.
Sorry?
Southampton.
Did
Lavia
they?
and Ward-Prowse.
Yeah, but that was this season, wasn't it?
Yeah. To be honest, we probably could have haggled
You
for
awkward bastard, you. Just don't you?
Don't put it on a tee for me. Give me a golf club and then expect me not to swing. That was
the same time, not the last time. Bloody, not having you on again.
But we could have got more for Maddison and Barnes, but got rid of them quickly, brought in the players that we needed so they could spend time with Enzo Maresca on the training pitch. Compare that to Southampton, who got more for Lavia Ward-Prowse, but they haggled towards the end of the market, meant that their new signings were delayed coming in, meant that Ward-Prowse actually played the first game for Southampton, didn't he, against was it Sheffield Wednesday, sorry. I would have I'm happier that we took the sort of the less in terms of a bank balance, but got the players in. They had spent a whole pre-season with us, because you look at the difference between how well-oiled and well-drilled your players like Harry Winks, you look now, even Hermanson, Callum Doyle before he got injured, Mavididi, they all look settled and ready now. Compare that to Southampton, where there's still real questions to be asked about a team that has spent as much as we have.
And that's it, because we haven't, have we, Kate? We haven't spent a fortune. We haven't spent 80 million on players coming in, have we?
Not at all. And like Ant said, I think the feeling that we've had a successful transfer window was because we did the business really early with Maddison and Barnes, and that's worth its weight in gold. Because even if you'd have got an extra 10 or 20 million between them, but delayed it well into the summer, some of your first choices would have gone, because these players want to get sorted, and when the summer's early and while they've got a few options on the table. So, you know, again, that's learning from our mistakes. You know, previous transfer windows, we have left it. We didn't want an Adrian Silva repeat, because that was horrendous for everybody, and it's such a bad example to set for any players that want to come and transfer to us. So getting the business done, and we've not spent the fortune. We've got a lot of players on loan. So I don't see us as like the Manchester City of the league, because we've done some really shrewd business, and a lot of them are loanees.
Yeah. And do you think there's any, I mean, when I look down that list of who's gone out, forgetting Barnes and Maddison, because we sold them, they, you know, weren't particularly begging to go at all. But apart from probably Soyuncu and possibly Mendy, there's nobody on that list that I'm particularly disappointed has gone out. But then again, how many of those, if they'd stayed, would have fitted into Enzo's style of play?
I would have liked Soyuncu to stay, but let's be honest. You get an offer from Madrid. There's very few players that are gonna stick about in Leicester, and I think him doing well in Madrid is making last year look even more of a farce. But I would have liked to have seen Mendy played, but Mendy stay. Sorry, but he's gone to a Champions League club in Lens in France. So I believe he's from France as well, isn't he? So he's gone back. Gone back to France. So, can you blame him?
No.
Saying all of that, but we haven't spent a huge amount of money. I hope we spend another 20 million in January just to piss off every other fan base in this league.
You do want to do that. You just don't need a wooden spoon, Ant, do you?
No,
you really don't. But of course, I mean, talking of the, one good defender we lost, we've lost another defender that is now appears to be number one choice at Manchester United, Johnny Evans. Kate, I mean, who would have thought would have watched Manchester United this season, and the back two were Johnny Evans and the Fridge.
I forgot about the Fridge name. I would never have seen that coming. I did read the other week that Johnny Evans said when we played them last year that Ten Hag asked him if he would fancy coming back after the game, which is just a bit frustrating, isn't it? I think they're absolutely daft to sign him. He's an absolute sick note, but he's obviously pulled it out the bag for them, and it shows that the disarray Man United are in, because to sell him for 3.5 million 6 years ago, it's just, what a player. And if you can, as a younger man, he must have been absolute Rolls Royce. I didn't pay a lot of attention to him back then, but you wouldn't have ever thought to have seen Johnny Evans back in the match. I think he said he got his 200th appearance, which he never thought in a million years he'd ever get.
No. I mean, I've got to ask you this, Anne. Looking at that list again of players that have gone out, had we stayed up on that final day, had we got the goal and we'd stayed up and Everton hadn't, etc., do you think there's a lot of those players, because we were in the Premier League and because there are players that we'd had in the Premier League that we would have tried to have kept? Do you think we would have had the clear out that we would have had because we've gone down?
I think so, but it's all if, buts, and maybes, isn't it? Because we may well have not. That's why I'm asking. We may well have got Enzo Maresca. We may well have not got Enzo Maresca in. We might have gone and got Scott Parker. It could have been anyone. So the players that we've got in would have been completely different. So players that have gone would have been completely different. But quick word on Johnny Evans. It says a lot, though, that we offered him a contract. He went to Man United. Fair enough. I'm glad he went. Last year, I was sick to death of him being injured. Northern Ireland game, fit and available. Comes back to Leicester, injured. He was so clearly not committed. And when that's your club captain, it sets a standard for the rest of the players. So for me, I know Johnny Evans is a big name, and he was fantastic a few years ago.
Yes,
but he was so it seemed clear to me last year he would have rather been anywhere else but Leicester.
Yeah, he had that experience, but players can live on their past glories in fans' minds or what have you. And like you say, if we'd paid him on a pay as you play, then fine. One last one, Kate, that I just want to talk about there that somebody just mentioned in the chat. A certain Belgian that ran his contract down, that wanted to go to a Champions League playing club, and he took a short trip across the Midlands to the Europa League, and I think he plays about 10 minutes at the end of every game.
Yeah, I think he's not getting any Premier League time at all. From what I've seen, I think he's playing the European Conference games. Yeah, I mean, who knows what the hell went on there? We obviously didn't convince him enough, and whoever that responsibility was to try and make him stay, he was just spouting off excuses to not sign a contract. And similar to Johnny Evans, like Anne said, if you don't want to be here, just go.
I was going to just say then
earlier that we could have got a fee for him, because 18 months prior his stock was quite high.
Yes,
and he has ran the stock down now, and that's also showing because he can't get in the Villa starting 11. So you got to be careful to read what you say. If I can imagine, the football world is a very small world, and you don't want to make noises for the wrong reasons, really.
Exactly. And I think for me, I'm glad he hasn't stayed, because I don't think, like you say, like Johnny Evans, he wasn't committed, and I don't think he was that good, to be honest with you, in that last 18 months, pure and simple. And I think when you come to think what Harry Maguire did when he left, which was sign a contract, knowing he would probably be going the year after, but guaranteeing that we would get some money for him, it would have been very, very easy for Yuri to do that. But look, Yuri's gone, good riddance, and what a shame it's not working out for him. It couldn't happen to a nicer footballer. Well, possibly Fofana, but that's another story. Brad, and look, let's have a look at the signings we've done. Who has impressed you most?
Where to start? Because it's not an easy question, is it? Because we've had some very decent signings. I think Harry Winks, he's too good to be in the Championship. He is not a Championship player. He's a Premier League level player, and I'd say I don't want to say a top end player, but he's a player that could comfortably slot in from about any team from 8th down. I would say Doyle, I was impressed with before he got injured. Hermanson, by the way, absolutely fantastic. I think I'm going to go for Hermanson and Winks, so I'm sitting on the fence between the two of them, because with him, at the end of last season, I don't think if I said to either you, Chris, or Kate, but Iverson's going to be our goalkeeper next year, I don't think either of you would have complained with us being a Championship.
I wouldn't have argued, certainly.
Yeah, but Hermanson's come in, and it's very rare you get a keeper that's elite with his feet and an elite shot stopper. He looks like he's got the potential to be both of those.
And in Kate, Jordan Blackwell in the Mercury actually did a piece, and he was apologising, saying that he could not understand why we went out and bought a goalkeeper. It was like, what a waste of money. We don't need another goalkeeper. But my God, he's earned his stripes, hasn't he?
Absolutely. It's probably why Jordan Blackwell isn't managing Leicester, to be honest, although I do like what he writes. But there's a reason why we do the jobs that we do. But I agree. Harry Winks has been absolutely superb. We said at the weekend, didn't we? He's like a Duracell bunny. Yeah. He's just got one power button, and that's it. He's gone.
He's the Duracell bunny, isn't he?
He is. Hermanson, again, really impressed with his distribution's been excellent. I just think there's about a 1% piece of him that's a bit cocky, which is what got us in trouble at Blackburn. I think that's youth. I think that's a nice side of arrogance. He's just got to be careful with that, because we don't want to be giving away silly goals. We don't want that that brought into the future of us at all. But you live and you learn. He's a young keeper and he's been absolutely superb. Some of the saves he's pulled off have been awesome. And I really like Mavididi. Mavididi for me is up there because I think it showed how much Harvey Barnes was lackluster on the left. He's just so tenacious. His pace is awesome. He wants to use his pace. He doesn't care who you are, he'll take you on. So it's been nice to have somebody who's ready to have that battle on the left rather than perhaps wimp out because he's not beat his man at the first attempt. So yeah, those three for me are the standouts.
Yeah. Tom, I mean, there's no need to have a go at Ant here, Tom. He's not upset you at all. We still think he's an inch or two short. I mean, there's no need for it, Tom. You'd never hear me having to go about Ant's height at all.
The thing is, as I keep saying every time, I could not wait to meet you, Chris, and you being about a head shorter than me.
It will never happen. It will never happen, if only for that reason. I think Cannon's not. We're not going to say anything to Tom Cannon until the new year. Kate, I mean, they've bought him, haven't they, on the strength of what he did at Preston last season?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that we can buy that kind of player. We've got to start planning for the sad day of mourning when Vardy retires. And this is a youngster who's ready to prove his worth. He's got some sort of history that he's proven. It's a shame about this stress fracture in his back. I think that was found at the medical. So yeah, it's good that we own a few of these players that are really going to be important positions for us going forward.
I mean, Boris has said there, Mavididi, Fatowu, they've both done very well. I mean, Winks, he's just all over the place, isn't he? But do you think, and I think you mentioned it earlier, Kashiday suffered really because everybody else has kind of hit the ground running. And
he's also the one that came in with the biggest reputation. Which
yes.
I don't think it's helped him at all. He's come in from Chelsea where all of their fans are watching him and expecting him to come in and be our main man. The fact that he hasn't done that, I think, and it's early days, but I think there's more expectation on him to come in and perform than there has been than any of the other signings that we've had. Harry Winks is looked at as a bit of a Tottenham reject. If we're calling a spade, he was looked at as someone who's not good enough for Tottenham. Like us, he's a fantastic player, and he's of this level. He's an absolute cheat code. But like Tottenham fans wish him well, etc. But they're not keeping an eye, expecting him to come to Leicester and set the world alight, which he has done.
There was a Man United fan in the chat the other day. I don't know if you know Bath Time, and he always asks about Winks, and he says he'll wait for us to get promoted, and then they'll come in and buy Winks. And I went, well, yeah, if you got the odd 80 million, fine. And then come and waste it on us again. He turned up at under 23s game. Did you say, Kate Cassidy?
Yes, he did. Yeah, he came with another youngster by the looks of it, who was his buddy. And he looks so young. Up close, he is so young. It's unbelievable. So it must be pretty daunting for someone that age. I know a lot of them go through it, but some are more mature than others when it comes to that kind of thing, aren't they? But yeah. I agree with that. The reputation was on his shoulders. We were one of many teams after him. He was in high demand. And the others have just gelled so well. So it's not that he's done poorly. He's just not done as good as the others. But he's not really had a run of it yet, has he, properly? We're only a few games in, really.
And do you think Eunice has been lucky?
Say that again.
Do you think Eunice has been lucky? I'll go to you, Anne.
Was there a bit of an echo for you?
There's an echo, I think, at Kate's, but she has put herself on mute now. But okay. I'll come to you. Has he been, because he hasn't had the game time that a lot of the others have had?
He hasn't, but he's a player that I really like the look of when he does play. He looks progressive. He looks technically so good on the ball. And his decision making, like, it seems like it's like with Mavididi and, well, particularly Mavididi, he's got all the talent in the world, but his decision making is a bit frustrating at times. Atgun is talented in a different kind of way, more of a technical ability than the ability of Mavididi, but sort of he's going to run past you. He's going to make life really difficult for you, and he's a handful. With Atgun, he's got so much technical ability, so technically sound, and he makes good his decision making and his product in the final third's brilliant. I think the fact that we've gone from having absolutely no wingers to we've got Mavididi, Patawu, McAteer, and obviously Atgun as well. Like the fact that we've got all of them, and you could genuinely list them in any order and not sound ridiculous. They've all got quality where you could genuinely put, say, McAteer's our best winger, Mavididi's our best winger. It's a good position to be in.
Okay, though we're saying the wingers. He was playing Eunice in the centre the other day, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. I think he's quite versatile like that, and I love to see him run with the ball. I think he's pretty much the fastest player in the team running with the ball. Probably because he has got that technical ability as well. But yeah, he just looks so enthusiastic as well. Like he's got the fire in his belly. It's just what you want to see from your players, really.
Yeah. I did have a Galatasaray fan come into one of the chats asking how he was getting on. And I said, like, oh, I'm really, we're really pleased with him. And I said, he hasn't played that much early in the season. I said, how's Tete getting on? He goes, he's shit. So that kind of sums it up. But Kate, before we move on to the next set of players, Hermansson, I mean, I've never seen a goalkeeper, unless it's right at the end of the game and they're going up for a corner. I've never seen a player play so far up the field.
Yeah, it's a little bit hairy at times, isn't it? But just when you see him where he stands, it's more than we're used to. Let's put it that way. But he wants to be involved. He wants to be that option. He wants to be that last defender almost, doesn't he? Which I think is probably part of Enzo's plan as well, like to absorb him into the main outfield play in case he's needed, and it just gives an option for the defenders to restart the phase of play.
I'm Not Elite says he's asking about McAteer. We're going to come on to the youngsters in a second. But look, and these are the players that either are in the last year or didn't leave or either on loan or permanently in the summer. Albrighton, Daka, Iheanacho, Ndidi, Sutar, Vardy, Vestergaard. I mean, let's start for Boris's sake. Let's start with Vardy. If we go up, does he get another season to have one more go at the Premier League?
I don't. This is the hardest one. I would say no, and I always say finish when you're on top. Go out on a high, which if he gets us back up this season will be a massive high. I don't think he can cause the problems in the Premier League that he's causing in the Championship this year. So I think the best way for him to go would be absolutely tear the Championship apart this season, like he has done, and then retire on what will be a huge high, getting us back to the Prem.
Yeah. Sutar, Kate, you weren't overly impressed with his first game back, but I thought he came in against Liverpool, did all right against Liverpool, and I thought he did okay against Stoke. I mean, all right, he didn't have an awful lot to do, to be honest with you, and was maybe caught out once. But I think he could, I think as a squad player, I think he I don't think there should be any hurry to get rid of him.
Maybe not. I'm not sure. Against Stoke, I felt like on the ball, he wasn't that great. He didn't give me as much comfort as Yannick did, which I can't quite believe that's just left my mouth. Dun, dun, dun. I thought that made you happy. But yeah, he made a few mistakes that didn't cost at all, but he just gave me some concerns because he wasn't as easy on the eye as some of the other players were. So I'm not sure he is cut out the Prem, but he could be a squad player. I think, like we've talked about before, it depends on him. If he's not committed, there is no point. Yeah. If he only just wants to sulk or not bother about trying to break into the 11 or improve where he's told to try and improve, then we've not got any capacity for that kind of player anymore. We just haven't got it. And he needs to move on.
That leads me very nicely, and we'll jump to my current favourite player, the Great Dane himself, Vestergaard. I mean, look, I joke about he is to me what Iheanacho is to Brad, but I always felt whether there's a Premier League player in there, I don't know, but he was there for Southampton for quite a few seasons. He was brought in by Rodgers. Rob Tanner said, like, why have you bought a player that doesn't fit into your system? Rodgers says, well, yes, he does, and then proceeded never to play him. He could have gone in the summer, and I understand him not wanting to go because his wife was just about to give birth, and the last thing you want to do is move in countries then. I mean, as things are going, and it is obviously we're only 11 games in, and we've seen that there are talks going on because we've seen Chowdhury has signed a new contract, so there are talks going on, with different players probably behind the scenes. Do you give Vestergaard a new contract?
Yeah, well, I don't know if he keeps this level up in the Premier League or not, but even if he doesn't, like, he's surely done enough to prove that he can have a squad role, like, in the future. And at the moment, he's been our best centre back so far this season. So yeah, absolutely.
He's kept Cody out, and when Cody's come back, we all immediately presumed that Cody's back. Cody's going to go in, and Vestergaard's going to be dropped. Glad he hasn't, because I don't think he'd done anything that deserved him being dropped. But he has kept Cody out.
He has, and credit to him, absolutely. So yeah, I think he deserves a new contract, 100%.
Kate, good to two for you now. Iheanacho and Ndidi, they've both got to be given new contracts, haven't they?
Yeah, you'd think so. The only thing with Iheanacho is the same frustrations get borne out every year with him. So it's whether he can, it's whether Enzo wants to take that on into the Premier League again. That's all. He has done really well in the Championship. There was reasons why managers didn't pick him as the starting man for a lot of Premier League games. Indeed, in a heartbeat, we've absolutely galvanised him somehow. And he's become a player that I don't think he could have possibly predicted that he could become. And he can only get better, and he seems to be getting better. He's not quite in Rose Ed anymore with most of his shots. He's probably come down to about Rose C, which is a massive improvement. But yeah, he's just been great to watch. He's got some skills. In a heartbeat. And I think Ndidi, he laughed away the Forest rumours the other week, didn't he, in his interview, saying it was just an absolute joke. There was no truth to it. He was watching the headlines come in, just laughing at the rumours. So I think he's really happy in Leicester. I think his family's settled here as well. And him and Nacho are BFFs, aren't they? They are in each of the socially. So there's a lot that goes on with that as well, which could help us. But if I had to choose between one, it would be Ndidi for me.
I'd want to keep them both. I just want to be greedy. Last two for you, Ant. Daka and Albrighton. I think I know the way that this one's going.
Albrighton, thank you for everything you've done. Been fantastic, fantastic servant for the club. But all good things must come to an end. Daka, move him on for his own career more than anything. He's fourth choice striker. Not really going to get a look in. I still think there's a half decent player there, but he's clearly not an Enzo striker. Like, move him on and just get those wages off the wage.
When you've got a player that's injured and out for 12 weeks ahead of you in the pecking order, maybe the clues are there that your time is up at the club.
Yeah, and I do feel sorry for him because I don't think he got the chances that he probably hoped he would. But at the same time, football's a ruthless game, as I keep saying. It's one of those. Sometimes when football moves work, sometimes they don't, and it'll be one of those that I wouldn't be surprised if he's another Kramaric where it hasn't worked here at Leicester. You see him go elsewhere and absolutely smash it.
Yeah, and I hope it does for his sake, because we know from the Moscow game, but you can't survive your whole career on one game. Stick with you for this one, Ant. I've only put the two there because they're the two that are in the squad that have done well. Marchell comes in, scores a goal. We don't see him again. McAteer plays out of his skin. Unfortunately, gets injured, although it's not as bad as we all first thought. Two amazing. I mean, I saw Marchell, I think it was against Northampton pre-season, and he was on the left, and he looked really, really good. But the fact that those players are getting game time, when you look at the sort of wingers that we've got at the club and they've got game time, that says a lot about Enzo, and it also says a lot about them as well.
Yeah, it does. For me, I'd give McAteer a new contract. Absolutely 110%. I think with Marcel, it's massively dependent on what you do with Yunus Akgun and Fatawu, whether you give Marcel a new contract, because there's a talented lad there, but you can't keep a player for the sake of keeping a player. And it's like, if we keep him, you're not keeping him to protect his value, because he's a youth player with no value or very little value in terms of a transfer market. So if you keep him, that has got to be with the sort of foresight of him becoming a first team player.
Yeah. Talking goalkeepers.
Can I just also add there as well? Sorry, just to also add there about Martial, that apparently he is reluctant to sign a new contract, which is why Enzo's banished him to the under-21s, because he wants to keep his options open. So that's an interesting shift on it a bit. And I can kind of understand it from Martial's point of view, because he doesn't want to tie himself into a team that he's perhaps not going to get a sniff with. But similarly, you can understand from Enzo's point of view, well, if you're not going to commit, then I can't commit to you.
A bit of a standoff there. Sticking with you, Kate, though, keepers. Now, I've not put Smithies up because he's injured. We're not going to see him after the end of the season anyway. We all know that. The two on the left, the ones that are holding the position at the moment, the two on the right, Everson and Ant's favourite goalkeeper, Danny Ward. I mean, surprised that we've still got Everson and Ward. Surely their time is up and they're going.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Everson costs us, but Danny Ward must be one of the most expensive reserve keepers that we've got in the Football League. Yeah, I'm quite surprised Danny Ward stayed. I think it just probably says a lot about his attitude and approach to the game now, because he's well over 30, isn't he? Or is he 30, 31, something like that. So, yeah, I mean, the two on the left are definitely our starters and our key personnel. But that's the nature of football, isn't it? Every team has four on its books. I'm just not sure that Danny's probably getting the best for himself, but he's obviously taking the money at the minute.
I mean, Kate, Hermansen, once we signed him, it was obvious, when we got the number of goalkeepers we already had, signing another one, it was always going to be that he was going to be number one. Stolchik, I can never, God knows how you pronounce it.
Say that one more time, Chris. We didn't hear you.
Go away, Ant. The reserve goalkeeper. I mean, he's surprised. He's kind of come from completely left field, no pun intended, to be number two.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's that Enzo fresh pair of eyes again. That no team member's team position is safe. You've got to prove it to me, and I'm going to judge everybody with my own eyes on my impressions, not on those of my predecessors, really. And I think that's what's happened here. I quite like Everson, to be honest. I think Ward had a hot spot, and I think that quickly went. He had some great times with Wales, and I think that perhaps with his few years or year or so in form. But I like Everson. I thought he's done an okay job. So it's good to know that we've got 3, possibly 4 decent keepers. But yeah, fair play to Stolchik, I think it is. He's obviously impressed. He's committed.
Yeah.
And he's being utilised for cup stuff, isn't he?
Yeah. How would you pronounce it then, Ant?
Stolchik.
Oh God, don't you hate bloody teachers?
It just sounds better than your stuttered attempt, Chris. Is what I was saying.
I feel I know him that well. I can use his first name.
You say anything with confidence, Chris, it sounds believable.
It sounded better than mine. I can't deny that. I mean, do you get rid of both of those, Ant? And do you think the fact that, and I've forgotten his name, bless him, but the goalkeeper, Mike Stow, I mean, he was part of the foundations, wasn't he? He'd been here with us that long. Do you think had he stayed that we might have seen a different 1 and 2? But he's gone. not only have you got a new manager, but we've got a new goalkeeper coach in. Like Kate said, sees things with different eyes. Do you think that's the reason maybe why Jakub has come through?
Well, he did do, and I know it's a different level. He did do very well on loan at Hartlepool last year. So it's like, and the club have always said that he's rated quite highly as a youngster. But like, the games he's played, he hasn't looked out of place at all, has he? So
no,
like with Iverson, I think Iverson's a good keeper, just at the wrong club, because we're not we need a keeper who's an extra man in possession who can be a playmaker from deep, that sweeper keeper. He's not that. He's a good shot stopper. So I think for his own career, he needs to move. Danny Ward, I think he's so used to sitting on the bench anyway. He's done it most of his career. So one more season doing that, collecting a paycheck, but he's not going to get anywhere else. What's it to him?
No, exactly. Tom said earlier, will we lose players in January? Kate, do you think we will?
I would like to think not. Unless you just never know what's going to happen with the likes of the sort of bottom part of the table. If they have a catastrophic injury, if Everton lose Calvert-Lewin for a very long-term injury, or you know what I mean, if there's players that get injured, then someone could sweep in for Nacho, as a sort of emergency, need a replacement pronto. And that's the only way I could envisage it, to be honest. But I don't think there'd be any planned. I'd like to think there'd be no planned raid of some of those players coming to the end of contract.
Maybe some of those that we saw on the sort of in the last year of the contract, somebody might come in for Nacho, unfortunately, Ndidi, possibly. But I mean, we've got the AFCON in January, and we're not actually losing that many players. I mean, we're going to lose Ndidi and Nacho. Apart from that, Fatawu at Ghana, I think Daka. He's not exactly going to be a loss, is he? Because we're not seeing him anywhere. So nothing to worry about on that side, is there?
No, but the thing is, we're losing players. But you watch any other team fan channels, they're saying exactly the same thing about January. They're losing their players. So it's not just us. We're all in the same boat. But I almost think that we're in a better position than most because we've got the quality and depth of players to come in where a lot of other teams don't.
Yeah. I'm just looking at it here, and actually Ghana and Nigeria are actually in the same. Oh no, they're not. I thought they're in the same group, possibly. They're in the same pot anyway. So, and depending how far they go, they may come back early. But I'm not. I had this vision that suddenly we were going to lose half the team in January, but we're actually, like I say, no disrespect to Daka, but when he's not getting on the pitch anyway, I don't think it'll be much of a miss. But I just want to end on this because just a bit. I did do a just saying number one. This is my just saying number two, just to end it on. 11 games, we've got 30 points. I mean, if you carry that through to, and my maths has been right, which it should be, because I used the calculator, it would mean after 46 games, we get 125 points. That would be nice, wouldn't it, Kate?
Yeah, it would be absolutely delightful. Smash a few more records. Always expect the unexpected with Leicester City. But yeah, you'd like to think 100 points is attainable. I don't want to get carried away, but you'd like to think. What did we get when we got promoted? I think you
102. I think
quiz a few weeks ago. Was it 102 or something like that?
I think it was 102.
So we could chase that potentially, chase our old selves, and then see what happens in the 2 seasons that follow.
Okay. Well, you have a think at the next question I'm going to ask Ant, because I will come back and ask. Boris, give it a rest, please. And what would be disappointing? I mean, after this start, and obviously we'll have reviews going through the season, but if we end the season, if we don't end the season in the top 2, or we don't end the season in the playoffs, so what would be disappointing for you at this point with the start that we've had?
If we're not a Premier League club next season, the points totals, the records, absolutely brilliant. But ultimately, it's just get back to the Premier League next season.
Agree, Kate? Or Would it be something different, be disappointing for you?
Yeah, I agree with Ant there. I think it'd be deeply disappointing if we didn't get back up, definitely.
Well, what a nice place to end on. We all agree, because I agree as well. So a lovely place to end on. Have a great weekend. You can go out drinking cake because there's no match. Not that you ever stop, I don't think. How can people
kill my reputation?
Sorry?
You're going to kill my reputation.
Do you have one?
Well, yeah, true. You can't get much lower than 0. So.
So tell people where they can follow you and where they can find you.
I'm on Twitter at Kate Blakey40. KTB44 is my Twitter handle, but yeah, the username the @ is at Kate Blakey40.
Not Olive.
Not Olive. No.
Not Olive.
I need to create an alias for that.
I've written that down because I've forgotten about that. I still need to do a little joke thing for you. And Ant, thank you so much for joining us, mate. As always, it's nice to have you on. Good luck with your channel. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so Ant's Leicester fan channel, again, as I said at the start, home and away match day content, all of that good stuff. And before we finish as well, I can see there's 24 people watching on my channel or something. Head over to Chris's channel, give the stream a like as well. Help out both channels, because the Leicester Space is a small community, so let's help everyone out on it.
Indeed. And exactly the same, if you subscribe to me or watching via mine, get over to Ant and subscribe to that. And give Kate a follow as well. She's really nice. She talks a lot of sense. Well, one of the three of us has to, I guess, doesn't it? Ladies and gents, thank you so very, very much. And we've got the weekend off. We've got England next week. And Kate, I'll see you on Monday for the debate show again.
You will indeed. I'll see you then.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, guys. Take care. So there we go. Thanks to Kate and thanks to Ant. Like we say, do follow Kate and do get over and give Ant's channel a watch as well. And if you haven't seen this yet, classic match with Julian Watts. It is up. It's under the pick, which is the latest programs, and we were talked through the actual game. The Crystal Palace 1, Leicester City 2 playoff final, which he was part of. And it's great to talk through the matches rather than talk through the career, because you can get onto Wikipedia and read that. It's great to talk to players that have actually been there. I'm trying to get Matt Elliott to come on to talk about the Leicester 3 Arsenal 3 game under Martin O'Neill. I'm also trying to get Steve Lynix to come on to talk about the Shrewsbury quarter-final FA Cup, and Ian Wilson to talk about the semi-final of the FA Cup that season, when unfortunately he scored an own goal. So lots to come, but we will be back on Monday with the debate show, and Tuesday we'll be back with the England game. England are playing Italy. We're hosting Italy. I think a win would virtually guarantee we'll be there. So we'll do that on Tuesday for the watch along. Thanks to Ant. Do get over and check Ant's channel out, Ant's Leicester fan channel. If you haven't already, get over there and subscribe. If you've been watching via that channel, thank you so very, very much. And if you've been watching via Leicester Till I Die, thank you very much as well. I've been Chris. This has been Leicester Till I Die and Ant's Leicester fan channel. And this is Arnie. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.